Hello, everybody, and welcome back to our Gather Creator Spotlight video. This week, we are highlighting Andrea Willoughby. Andrea is an amazing healer, and she does things in really unique ways. So I want to make sure to have her describe what she does so that you can really understand how she works with her clients and what she has to offer our community. So Andrea, thank you so much for being here. I am so excited that you're part of our group.
Yes, you're welcome. Thank you for having me.
Absolutely. So tell us a little bit about, who you are, where you are, and how you work with people. Maybe a little bit about how you got started or how you got into this in the first place.
Okay. Yeah, so I'm Andrea Willoughby, and my business has always been in the San Ramon area. Used to have a hands-on healing practice, but the last few years, even pre-pandemic, I was ready to go virtual with the healing. It's energy healing. It can be done virtually. It can be done distance. It can be done in person. But how did I ever get involved with this? Because honestly, until I was about 40, I didn't think that I had any kind of psychic ability or any kind of skills, intuitive abilities.
Mm-hmm.
But it turns out I'm highly sensitive and highly intuitive as an empath primarily. And what that meant for me as a person, as a highly sensitive person all my life, was that I was actually taking on people's energy, even as a child. But little did I know, I had no idea what was happening. All I know is I was really uncomfortable in my body most of the time growing up. I remember having a lot of anger. It's like, what was that? Even in my 20s
Like
and 30s.
reactions that you weren't expecting would just kind of come out of
just
nowhere.
just always angry, angry that in my home life, angry that maybe I didn't get enough attention. I think that's was part of it. I had three sisters. My parents were overwhelmed. Just if so some so we had four girls. Everyone come from the same two parents. Every one of us turned out very differently, but with some solid synchronicities. And so my oldest sister was like the good girl, always did well in school and things were easy for her. My other sister was more of the very kind, the mediator.
Mm-hmm.
And I was angry. Like, I was looking for the negative attention. So, in a way, we were all seeking the attention
Mm-hmm.
of our parents in our own way. And for me, if there was nothing left, I was going to get it one way or another.
Yeah.
So yeah, I look back on that and go, why was I so angry? And it ultimately turned into pain and illness in my body. So from the time I was a teenager, I'd been in a car accident, and ever since then, I was 13 years old, rolled in a car, no seatbelts,
Mm.
and came out with neck pain, back pain that plagued me for another 25 years after that.
Wow.
Yeah, and I tried all kinds of things through those years. I was very driven. I was still wanting to just go out and have a good time, in my life and accomplish a lot of things. So I did manage to accomplish a lot of things, but I always struggled with the pain and also energy level. Like I just had kind of a low energy level. Um, and it turned out that it was energy that was keeping me down, that I had lots of layers of negative energy that I had probably layered on from a very early age.
Mm-hmm.
And if you're not getting better, you're getting worse. And so even though I had tried more traditional healing methods, I tried every test in the book to see what was wrong with me in my 30s. And prior to that, I had gone to the chiropractor consistently since I was 13. So I had had more than 700 chiropractic adjustments in all those times.
Wow.
Yeah, kind of crazy.
And did you
right?
find that they were like temporary relief, but it never permanent, right? Because, yeah.
Yeah, that's exactly what I found. And yet, I kept going because I still wanted the temporary relief.
Right.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah. And so finally, I kept getting worse and worse. And it went from this pain condition to um, this chronic fatigue to irritable bowel to fibromyalgia to all kinds of these so-called diagnosable conditions
Mhm.
that the doctors still didn't know what to do with. They were like, well, you're stressed out. And that was true. Definitely. I had 3 boys I was raising. I still was trying to work and function in life, but I was never getting what I really needed until I found a chiropractor who had been trained in this technique called BEST, or
Mhm.
bioenergetic synchronization technique. And that just changed everything for me. So I was about 39 or 40 by that time. And within a matter of weeks, like 3 weeks, my neck pain and back pain was pretty much gone.
Wow.
And some of the other symptoms too had significantly already changed. So my attention, I really was interested. I was curious, more than curious. I became passionate about it. I was like, what is this that's happening? And I want to know more about it.
Yeah.
So I continued to study about it. And this chiropractor encouraged me to learn even more about it, how to do it. For a long time, it had only been practiced with or taught to chiropractors. But right around the time that I was involved in it, learning about it, they opened it up to other kinds of practitioners. So I actually became a massage therapist in order to be able to learn this technique,
Okay.
and never looked back. And I mean, did I think I could do a good job of it, healing other people? I sure was doubtful, but I knew that I could start with my parents and my children and my husband and my sisters, who all seemed to be going to the chiropractor too.
Mm.
And we all benefited greatly from this kind of work. Um, and I just continued to learn and practice and learn new techniques as well. So that's not the only thing that I learned. But over the years, I realized I was this highly sensitive empath that took on people's energy. And now, instead of taking it on, I just pass it through. So during my sessions, whether they're on the phone or on Zoom or distance healing or in person, I feel the energy as it gets set in motion. So we
Yeah.
kind of explore what might be behind somebody's condition. And it could be a physical condition, an emotional condition, could be a toxic situation, or symptoms that came on after exposure to toxins of some kind.
Okay, I have a question.
Anxiety, depression are huge
Yeah.
that I
Let me
work
so
with.
let me ask a question, because what you talked about was moving from a procedure or a system, right? A treatment modality that you learned through chiropractic that you took on as a massage therapist to use. And then, so how does that relate, like how is that related in a practical sense to the energy healing and you being an empath, and like how does that all tie together? Because like we were talking about being in person versus online, of course most people are going to say, well, how do you do something that was related to chiropractic on the phone?
Right.
Right. And of course, you have other things that you bring to that conversation, and there's a lot of conversation. But so tell me about how that works together, especially when you don't have the opportunity to be in person.
Yeah, and that, it's all a learning process. So when I first learned how to do this, my mentor chiropractor said, the biggest thing for you is you're going to need to get out of your own way and believe that you can do this.
Mhm.
And he was right. And I want to say it took me 8 years at least to get out of my own way. I kept doing it. I had to practice, but I wasn't all that comfortable with it. In
Mhm.
fact, I was probably holding my breath on some level when I was working with people. A lot
Mhm.
of attachment, like, will I be able to help this person?
Did you
Are they going to
find
get the
that you
results?
were, with your empathic sense, did you find like did you like, I would imagine that there's some sort of like, you're taking on this concern that they don't know if it's going to work. And you also don't know if it's going to work, yet you're trying to make something work. I mean, I can imagine the spinning
Yeah.
wheels around all of that in your head.
Yeah, it was hard. And I knew that I was struggling with the energy. So I would work on somebody and I'd have to go home and rest for 2.5 hours.
Yeah. That
Yeah,
I think that's kind of what I'm getting at, that you must have taken so much on until you
I did.
realized
I did. And
like,
yet,
how
why
did
didn't
you
I give
figure out
up?
how to let it through?
It was my body finally figured it out.
Mm,
So, I kept hearing people say, you just need to let it go. You need to put a little bubble of protection around you. You need to wrap yourself in silk and, whatever. And none of that worked. I still was like, oh, I just can only work on a few people, in a
yeah.
day. So then I thought, well, maybe I'll just do massage for a while. That'll be easier. In a way it was. In a way it was. That
Even
was
though it's a
just
lot
more
more
physical.
physical, right?
It's
Because
more
we know that
physical
body
and there was,
workers use a lot of
yeah.
energy physically.
Yeah. And then when I finally, over the years, thought, no, I'm really passionate about this other work. This is the work that
Really
changes
changed
people's
your life. Yeah.
lives. And so I decided not doing the massage, switching over to energy work, thinking that'll be easier. Also, somehow I thought that would be easier. No, 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 no. It got so bad I could barely touch people. Like I'd walk in the room and just be like, yeah. And so I signed up for some emergency meditation classes one night, and I just called somebody at a center near me, and I said, I need this, I need it tonight, I need it now. And that session, she guided me through some meditation, and for the entire session, I yawned and yawned and yawned. I must have yawned 100 times. And I had tears coming down out of my eyes just from squeezing out the tears from the yawning.
Yeah.
And she encouraged me that, hey, this is normal. This is a normal reaction. A lot of people have this. And after that, any session I did after that, and still to this day, I yawn through the entire session. So my body figured it out. It was like, if you're not going to figure it out, if you're not going to meditate every day, if you're not going to, whatever,
We're going to yawn it out
the
of you.
body will do it for you.
Your
Yeah.
body's going to yawn it out of you.
Yeah.
Well, and so I take your yoga classes a couple of times a week, and you're always yawning.
See, I don't even notice it now.
Well, and not in a bad way, but when you yawn, I'm like, oh, I wonder if there's something that I'm feeling that she's feeling. You know what I mean? Like I wonder.
I am.
Right.
I am.
And then, but then I wonder, like, what am I feeling? Like, what am I not noticing about myself in this? So it's really interesting to understand that, and yet not have a lot of experience, with recognizing it for yourself. So
that's a lot of what I teach people now, is to recognize when their body is releasing energy. So some people yawn, some people burp a lot, some people cough, and there are multiple. Sneezing is another one. Mm-hmm. So tummy rumbling, maybe you get really cold or hot. It's your body is actually transmuting the energy of the other person, and perhaps some of your own as well. So now I don't feel tired after a session. I could work all day long and not feel tired or sick or anything like that. But that, it took me a while, I'll just say.
So good. Yeah. So good. So, here at Gather, obviously, we're really involved in a community support and being here for each other. And I know that you and I met because we're part of other communities that we're all a part of and involved in. So tell me a little bit about, and I just mentioned that I was taking your yoga classes. So obviously you work with groups, you work one-on-one with people. So tell me a little bit about what it's like for you doing this work in like a community environment, or how it can benefit the community, either the people that you're working with or what they then take out to their parts of the world.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Are you asking me if I can work with a group and healing of a group?
No, because I know that you can. What I meant was, what I
How does it impact them?
yeah, how does it impact them? And then what do they then, how are they able to then show up differently or feel differently when they go back to their community, right? It's the ripples
Yeah,
in the pond idea.
absolutely. I mean, I love that idea. So I work with people individually, I work in these groups, settings, and I know that I'm helping people shift these old patterns of trauma that have been laid down from early on, maybe even inherited from their ancestors, that are keeping them small in their world. Um, Maybe they don't easily move forward in life, take risks. Um, Maybe there's fear, anxiety, overwhelm,
Mm-hmm.
and they think they're just stuck with that, that that's just the way they are, or that's the way their parents were. And, you know, even grandparents. So it gets passed on. And the fact is, it's just energy. So it's not, I always say it's not in the hardwiring of your system,
Mm-hmm.
it's in the software, and the software can be reprogrammed. But for some of us,
Love
it
that.
feels like it's in the hardware
For
because
sure.
it's so entrenched. And the patterns in the nervous system are like ruts, deep ruts in the nervous system.
Mm-hmm.
But the brain is plastic and we can make changes there. And partly it comes down to beliefs. So we definitely can help people change their beliefs if they desire.
Yeah, if they're willing to be
Um,
open.
yeah, and also get rid of pain that they may have been suffering for many years, which kept them in the belief that they could never be completely well, so that they can't accomplish the things they would love
Right.
to accomplish in life. That impacts their families, their children. It impacts their relationships. And many divorces come out of the fact that people are energetically attracted to each other. um, their pain bodies are attracted to each other to
Mm.
start with.
Mm-hmm.
And it's like we're trying to repeat the patterns of our childhood because that's what we're most comfortable with. But then we end up in a relationship with somebody who maybe was like our father or like our mother in some way because that was familiar. And that's not healing, that's just playing out the old patterns.
Yeah.
And with this kind of energy work that I do, we actually release the energy of the pain body of the individual who's coming in to see me. And that can sometimes cause a change in the other person, the relation, the spouse or whatever,
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
because they start to realize they can no longer play the same old game and the same behaviors on this person who's now gaining insight and boundaries and just no longer reactive in the same way they used to be because we've released the pattern of
Yeah.
energy that caused them to have explosive reactions of anger or inward collapses
Mm-hmm.
of energy like depression.
Yeah.
And so it changes the whole family. And I mean, eventually it changes thousands of future people. Because if you
Yeah.
heal it now in the lineage now, it will impact everyone in the future
Yeah.
in
So
that
it's not
lineage.
even like my thought process goes to like the now, the people, in my, well, it's COVID, people in my house. I kind of in a way stops there to a certain extent, but it doesn't stop there because we're
Mhm.
not going anywhere. But my brain goes to the physical community, like current, but you're really talking about generational and like it's the multiverse.
Yeah,
I'm a Marvel
it's
fan.
life changing for
Yeah, that's amazing.
our whole world.
Yeah.
And I just wish, and it's happening more and more, but I wish that children could learn about these emotions. So I really consider myself to be, and I work primarily with women, but I do get calls from men and I absolutely take them on. I mean, I have 3 boys.
Right.
um, but I work primarily with women in my women's emotional mastery program.
Yeah.
And my goal is to not only teach them what to do with the emotions that come up on a daily basis, the little triggers and the emotions that can weigh us down for a few minutes to several weeks after something happens, So I can help them know what to do with that, but also I can find things they don't even know that they're carrying energetically. And I can only work with what the body is ready to release. So I don't try to force anything to happen. I allow it to happen as that person is ready. And many people, they do need baby steps, so we may do really short sessions on someone who's not sure, how to start with this.
Right.
And I work pretty closely with them on, letting them know what to expect after they start sessions, because life definitely changes for the good. But there are moments of up and down with the healing process. So maybe somebody comes into me for anxiety and they actually feel anxious, on the phone during the session, because the energy that's causing that anxiety has been set in motion and is releasing and leaving their body, but they may feel it as it goes. So I just try to explain up front that may happen, and it's nothing to be afraid of. That it'll be very temporary and not dangerous, even if their heart beats faster or if they feel a strange pain that they never had before. It's all part of the energy healing process, and not just with me in my practice, but energy healing in general. That is how it works for people.
Whew. Well, I kind of feel excited, like I'm feeling kind of fuzzy right now, even just like considering, because the impact, like you were saying, you work primarily with women, and as a mom, I think of, how that can trickle down to my kids, and, and how that, like you said, will impact how they have relationships. Mine are 12 and 14, right? There hasn't been any serious relationships with significant other yet. And when that comes, because it's entirely likely to come, how will they, what will they carry on from me? And, and part of that is growing as a person, and allowing, like teaching them that they can show up however they feel comfortable. But there's also that underlying stuff that, like you said, that we don't even really know we're passing on.
Right.
Yeah.
And if you went through some healing work for yourself, that would totally impact your children.
Sure. Yeah, absolutely.
They would start to see that, oh, this is how we do this emotion.
Right.
This is what we do with this situation.
And we get that in coaching, but it's just a different kind of feeling, right? It's going to feel differently coming from energy healing versus like a psychological kind of tactical.
It depends on the practitioner, honestly.
Okay.
So if the practitioner is skilled in energy work, that session will be deeper than someone who hasn't had any experience moving energy.
Yeah.
And everyone can learn how to do this, by the way. You don't have to be a highly sensitive empath to learn how to do this work. And it works. Everybody can do it. So that's really cool. So parents can learn. I actually teach something called Family Best. So I teach couples or individual parents how to clear the energy of their children. And it works perfectly for children up to about 12 years old. And then as they get older than that, and this can be taught in like a 3.5 hour workshop. Older than that, they start to need the more advanced emotional work.
Yeah. Then they kind of go into the adult-ish category, even if they're only teenagers.
Yeah.
That middle, that gray area in between, man.
Yeah.
Well, it's fantastic. So I love this because, while we have known each other for a while, just to hear you talk more in depth and more deliberately about how it is, how not only how you help people, but how that even shows up for you when, like, it's all very interesting to understand, not only how I, as a potential client, could have an experience, but how it is it's a give and take, because every relationship is a give and take. So this has been really great. Awesome. Well, I'm super excited. You mentioned your women's emotional mastery course that you teach. And since this, I mean, this isn't like a one-time video, this is going to last a while. So, but I know that that's something that you have as a plan to kind of go ongoing. So that is likely, no matter when you're listening to this, that likely still exists. So make sure that you reach out to Andrea. We will make sure that your links and everything are in the notes and in the posts that we do and stuff. Is there like, do you have like one like wrap up guiding principle that you can close us with, or I don't know, like thought that has risen to the top after we've been talking? Whatever you choose.
Yeah. So what I love about this work is that it teaches people to embrace the moment and to know how to feel their feelings without judgment upon themselves, or really sinking into the abyss of negative thinking. And so what really comes out of that is that people realize they have the power to heal themselves. And a really important factor in healing ourselves is to do the things in life that you've been afraid to do. So if you're afraid to speak in public, maybe you don't start right away, and that's something that we can work on, but that you start to take even baby steps to do the thing that you were afraid of, or set up think about opening a business that you've just always thought about, or take the hike that you were afraid to take because you didn't think your body could handle it.
Yeah.
So it really opens up your whole world when you begin to lean into life. So instead of leaning away and being afraid, we start to lean in. And I still do it all the time myself. Just because I've done this work for so long doesn't mean that I have no emotional problems.
Well, we often
like we
teach
still
what we
will
need to
always
learn, right?
have opportunities.
Yeah.
There's always going to be more opportunities, for the rest of our life. And by leaning in, we'll actually have spontaneous healing that happens in our life simply by taking steps forward.
Yes.
So.
Yeah. Oh, I love it. That's perfect. It's the perfect wrap up, because we're the ones that get to decide how we move forward. And if we are willing to experience something new and be supported by others who can help, it's just, we get to really live that fulfilled life. So good.
Yeah.
Well, Andrea, I'm super excited that you joined us today. Of course, as I mentioned, I love that you're here with our Gather community creators. Clearly an expert in what you do, especially in the sense that you're always learning more about how to help whoever it is that comes your way. And I love that about you. So I appreciate you. And super glad that you're here. We could spend this time today, and we'll see you again soon.
Thank you so much for having me.
Absolutely.
Yeah, it's been fun.
All right, see you soon.
Okay.